I'm Pastor Rick, and this is Power and Dominion Ministries presents Straight Talk on Scripture. Now, I'm sure all of you have heard the phrase, it is what it is. You know, you lose your job, somebody breaks up with you in a relationship, your car gets into an accident, and what do you say? You say it is what it is. And that's not always a bad thing, because sometimes you have to accept reality at the moment, and it's not good to be in denial. But let's add God to the equation, because with God, it is what it is until many times it isn't. And so I want to tell you a story. Everybody has, well, almost everybody, I would think, has heard the story of Abraham and Sarah. In fact, Abraham is revered by three religions: Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. And it's a wonderful story where Abraham and Sarah, they married a long time. Sarah is barren, and they have a miracle baby when Abraham is 100 years old, and his name is Isaac, and he becomes the father of Jacob, who becomes the nation of Israel. Everybody's heard that story. But there's more to it, because at the age of 85, Sarah had Abraham have relationships with her handmaiden, Hagar, and bore a son named Ishmael. Now, when Isaac came along, Ishmael was a teenager, and they didn't get along. So Sarah said to Abraham, "You have got to banish Hagar and Ishmael from the camp," which was a death sentence because they were in the wilderness. But they left, and God had mercy on the two of them, sent an angel, and they lived. But I'm sure in her own way, Hagar thought, well, this is my situation, it is what it is. And you really don't hear much about her after that in the Bible. But let me tell you a version of history that many scholars believe to be true. Now, I'm not saying that this is history, but this is what would be called traditional theory. And it's one I believe in. And that when Sarah died, 3 years later, at the age of 140 something, Abraham got remarried. And the name that's recorded in the Bible is he got married to a lady named Keturah. Now, what tradition tells us, and I believe it to be true, is that Keturah was in reality Hagar. And that, again, tradition tells us, and historians tell us, that all the time since she was banished from the camp, she was never with anybody. You know, she was never with a man after that. She never got remarried. She stayed single, raised Ishmael. And what happened is, 3 years after Sarah died, it is believed that Abraham remarried Hagar. And so let's say that this is true, which I believe it to be true. Hagar, after she had Ishmael, was having a good life. When Isaac was born, she was banished from the camp. She was rescued by God, but what I believe she probably said is, well, I guess it is what it is. But then many years later, according to tradition, Sarah dies and Abraham remarries, and supposedly it was Hagar, and they had a great life together. Abraham lived to be 175, so they had over 30 years together. They had 6 children. And so what I want to say is, you may be in a situation that you have to accept, but it's not good. And you just tell yourself it is what it is. But with God, there's always the chance that something wonderful can happen. You know, quick story, my brother had dementia and he was dying. In fact, the doctor called me and said, he's got about a month left to live, prepare his funeral. I said, well, let's start preparing his funeral. It is what it is. He's got dementia, he's going to die. My brother got a miracle. A week after the doctor called me and said he had a month to live, my brother called me and he was himself again. They call it spontaneous remission, but we know what it is, a miracle. So in that case, I was resigned. I said, it is what it is. But it is what it is until it isn't, because God had other plans for Steve. Just like tradition tells us, God had other plans for Hagar. So be encouraged. Never say, if you know God, well, I guess my life is just crummy. It is what it is. With Jesus, there's always hope. There's always love. God bless you. I'll see you next week.